side with NGO on all of those projects and vulnerable youth people. So you can add me on LinkedIn if you want to stay tuned. So for the session objectives, so today's session is about understanding the fundamentals of project design. If it's hard for me to know for the people that are here if you already built a lot of projects, if you're a beginner. So I think this session will be a mix. I think if you already built a lot of projects, you might not know, like you might have learn new things here, but at the same time, if you're a beginner, it's a very good session to kind of like how to define a project, its definition, life cycle, etc. I will show you some examples that you can use, like design tools, and yeah, that's it for the objective. So as I said, it will be in 4 parts. Will be introduction of project design, then we'll see the conception tools, problem tree, logical frame. We'll have a focus on theory of change, and we'll end up with a conclusion. Between each part, we'll do a Q&A session. So I reckon if you have questions during the meeting, just please ask them in the chat. Otherwise, just keep them in the middle. So, for example, as soon as the first part ends, I can just ask you if you guys have questions, and you can just raise your hand and take have a speech. Also, a few rules for the session. If you want to say something, just please raise your hands, because I'm alone managing like the chat and the presentation and everything. So it's kind of like raise your hands if you want to speak, or write in the chat, and I will give you guys the speech. And also, if everybody can close his mic, because it's going to be hard for me if I hear some background noises. I think Ram, Taul, if you can close your mic, sorry, just for the session, and if you wanna speak, you can raise your hands or write in the chat. Well, let me see. I'm just checking the last details. Okay, so we're at 29. That's great. Okay, if it's good for everyone, we can start. You still hear me well? Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with the introduction of project design. So in the chat, if you want to write, maybe, I don't know if someone can give me a definition for themselves while it's a project, like how would you define a project? Maybe we can start with that, write in the chat. We can see if you have a different definition from what I got. It could be very simple. No one has a definition of a project. Well, it's very simple, but we can go ahead with the definition that I got. So for me, a project is a structure and temporary approach to meeting a specific need. So a project is like a trip. We have a problem to solve, or we have things to do, and we need to reach a certain, like a very specific objective, right? A project, by definition, it's temporary. That means that it has a clear start and a clear end. It could be 6 months, could be 2 years, could be 1 year. It's using specific and allocated resources. So that means for my project, I'm going to need people, I'm going to need money, I'm gonna need, I don't know, fabrics, whatever. It needs also a dedicated organization, like who is handling the project, who is managing the project, how it is structured inside. And it's also aimed to answer a specific and measurable objectives. We're going to see some example just right now. So I'm just going to close this. Okay. Okay, great. So what is a project? The project has those four steps that I just told you about. So a project needs to answer a specific objective. For that, we'll follow the SMART objectives method. It's very basic. I'm pretty sure all of you already heard of this. But an objective has to be smart. That means it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, and it has to be realistic and time bound. So, for example, an objective, like if you say, I want to train farmers in Senegal, that's not an objective. Like, that's an objective, but it's not very specific. So, if you want to train 500 farmers in agroecological techniques in Senegal, that's an objective. Like that's a real objective that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Okay. Your project will need allocated resources. As I said, it will need a budget. It will need a team. So, for example, if the budget is like how much you need for the project and how you're going to get the money. The dedicated organization. So, what are the roles? Who mean like you have clear roles. For example, the coordinator. You have the coordinator. You have the project manager. How many people you need to work on the project and stuff. And it needs to be time. So that means it needs to have a clear starts and a clear ends, as we said. Great. So we can just jump in this concrete example. So as I say, my objective for my project is to train 500 farmers in agroecological techniques in Y.E.S, Senegal. So the duration of the project will be 2 years. The budget that we have will be 100,000 euros, and it will be co-financed by the European Union and by the town hall of Thiers. And the objective, like specific objective, is to increase by 30% the yield. So that means like also the culture and everything. And for that, I will need one coordinator and 3 agronomists. Okay, so this way you are seeing like for very in a very simple way how you can explain what you need for your project. Okay. Also, the dedicated organization could be who are the people you are going to work with. So for this project, you can work with the chief of the village, you can work on the technical and agriculture service of the village, you can work with the town hall, and obviously with the team from the project. So that's just to start quickly the presentation. Okay, for now, is there any question for the introduction and the definition? You can write in the chat or you can raise your hand and I'll tell you. Or if it's all clear, just you can do a thumbs up. Okay, great. So it looks all clear. I don't have any message in the chat. Okay, next up, it's the design tool. So now that we know and we have seen, we have the same definition of what a project is, we're going to see what we can use. Okay, so first, I think it's a very important step. But when you are going to do a project, especially a development project, the phase before where you think about the project, the diagnosis is a very, very important phase. I think the diagnosis before it's definitely overlooked, or it's something that sometimes we don't want to spend too much time doing, and it's like gathering data could be like a bit boring in some way, but it's very the most important phase of the project. Is where you are analyzing all your needs, also which problem you are facing and why you want to solve this problem, and you can analyze with all your stakeholders to define like the core problem, so really the main problem that you want to work in that moment. It's important to include everyone. So if we take the same example with the project in Senegal, when you are doing your diagnosis, ask the people what they need as the beneficiary, but also ask the people from the town, or ask the chief of the village. Like the diagnosis, the more you get information, the better it is to structure your project. So for that, we can use some tools, right? Interviews, field surveys. You can use data from the government and stuff, but also the very also like main one that I think everyone could use, it's the SWOT matrix. So maybe in the chat you can also give a thumbs up if you already done. Who has already done a SWOT matrix? Maybe give a thumbs up to see if I have more people that have done it. Okay, we have one, two. Okay, we have some times up. Yes. I think someone raised his hand. Okay. Do you want to? Okay, it was to say yes. Okay, great. Perfect. So a lot of people already made the diagnosis. So SWOT, I'm gonna go pretty quick on this. There are a lot of resources about SWOT, but it's important to understand. SWOT is to identify two ways, like how to say, the internal effects and the strength and weaknesses, and the external effect that are gonna affect your project, they are gonna play on your project. So S is for strength and W is for weaknesses. This is internal, so that means you as an association, as an NGO, or as a person working in that environment, you need to know what your association is good at, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, okay? So that's more question yourself, question your colleagues, question your managers, the boss, I don't know, like do a lot of questioning about what is good and what is not good about your association to know you better, right? Or if you already done a project in the same way, you can also take like what was good in the previous project, what's bad, etc. So have this data. And the external part is more about opportunity and threat. That means if my project is still it's still to train 500 farmers in that specific village of Senegal, what could be an opportunity for me to manage this project, or what could be a threat for me to manage this project? A threat could be that I don't find any trainer because there is none, not in this region. The opportunities will be that there is a training school very near the village. Well, try to have this and separate the internal and the external part, okay? Yeah. So yeah, as I said, the strategic diagnosis is very important to identify the resources that are available, so the actors, the infrastructures, the data. Also to understand the local dynamic. You will see like along the presentation, I'm always talking about like the environment as a context. So meaning if you're gonna set up a project in that region or in that village, the most important thing is that people from that place knows about the project and gave you advice about the project or gave you like the pros, the cons, like if like how it can work, how it cannot work, like having a lot of people included in the project and having to give their advice, it's the best way to do the best project ever. Um, So yeah, and yeah, what it's to avoid is also to design the project without consulting the beneficiaries. Because, for example, if I build this project for the farmers and I don't talk to the farmers before, that could be very like bad for the project because I don't have the main feedback that I want from the beneficiaries. So yeah, that's it. You see here in the tool the strength and the threat. For example, I give you an example. So a threat could be that there is a presence of an active agricultural cooperative inside the village. But a threat would be that it's the rainy season could do bad with this because we cannot train because it's too rainy or there is a lack of productivity. Like, okay, try to think about everything like the environmental threat, the political threat, the economical threat, and everything. There are a lot of tools I invite you to check, and I can send you more about this at the end of this presentation. Um, And to finish on this slide, I would say ask yourself the key questions and ask people like all over you, the stakeholder, what are my top priorities, like the three priorities issues here, or who are the community influencers? So who got to talk to and what are the main problems that I have to think about it? Because I will say it again at the end, but to succeed a project, you need to anticipate the risk. That's really the key point of this whole diagnosis. Okay, then a good way to jump into that also diagnosis part, it's the problem trees. So the problem trees is a tool. So this tool, it's like a visual, like it's very visual. It's not very like having to, like deep writing about the problem and everything, but it's a visual analysis tool that identifies a core problem. So what we'll call the trunk, its root that cause the causes, and its long-term consequences that we'll call the branches. Okay. So you have an example on your right, tool one, the problem tree, the image. So you have the main problem here, the main issue comes from the trunk, right? So it's the core problem. So here in this area, it's the low agricultural productivity. That means we don't have enough productivity due to a lot of factors, okay? We try to identify the causes, so why we have this problem. So why we have this problem, it's the roots, right? It's the causes. So we have this problem because we have a limited access to seeds. So that means we cannot plant a lot of things. We have a lack of training. There are not many agronome or people that are working in this environment in the village or in the town. And we have depleted soils, okay? So those are the causes. And once you know the causes and the core problem, you can ask yourself what will be the main effect slash consequences on a long-term impacts. So obviously, if you have a low cultural productivity and your village or your town is depending on it, it's food insecurity. And it's rural exodus because people they might leave because there is not enough food or it's not very safe for them to stay there anymore and doesn't have this like incoming of productivity and agriculture economy. Is that clear on that? Does someone has a question? You can raise your hand. Okay, I think it's good. Mm, I'm taking because I have my notes here also, so that's why I'm like checking sometimes down. Okay, so we can jump on the next one. But maybe before the next one, I think I see that. Oh, sorry. I see that we are a lot of people here. Can we? So we are trying to have a picture of all of the sessions. We are trying to take like a screenshot of all of the session. So maybe can you? I'll just unshare my screen, but that would be great for the one who can just to activate their camera, turn on the camera. And so I can just take a screenshot for the one who wants, and we can share after it's for communication matter or even like having to know that cool. It's great to see you all. Okay, I'm gonna do it soon. Okay. I have 20 others. Okay, I'm just gonna take the screenshot now. So do your best smile. Okay. Okay, I have one. Okay, let me take another one because some people just joined. Okay, one, two, three. Oh my God, my face. Okay, amazing. Thank you, guys. That's great. We can keep up on the training course. Okay, we're almost 30. It's insane. It's very good. Okay, I'm gonna share this again. Thanks for playing the game. So next up, it's I think the main tool that it's like probably the most famous tool when you answer a call for project or when you want to build a project. Some of you obviously already done some, I'm pretty sure. So it's the logical framework. It's also ask when you are working with big donors, could be private foundation, could be countries that are giving money for a development project, could be the European Union, or even some companies that can give project, they can ask for a logical framework. So what is a logical framework? Is a tool to, I'd say, like structure and track your project. So it outlines in one table, the one simple table. Could be simple, it could be not simple if you have a lot of objectives, but the objectives, the activities that you're gonna put in place for your project, the expected results, the indicators to measure your progress, and the means of verification. Okay. And so the purpose is to clarify the hierarchy of the objectives, because when you do a project, you might have different objectives. You might have like a big and main objective, I will call global objective, and then you might have one, two, three specific objectives that are going to target, for example, only one activity or two activities. So I'm going to give you an example just after the slide. This way we can work together on this and trying to figure it out. It's the logical framework it's also aimed to facilitate the monitoring and the evaluation of your project. Also, you can communicate, as I said in the beginning, you can communicate that with your donors. That means if you're imagine your like this company or this private fund or the states want to find you, or even I don't know, the town hall of your town, they want to give you a subvention. If you and they're telling you to write a project, you can send them this table, which will be, I think, very appreciated, meaning that you know how to build a project and you already thought about all the objectives, the indicators, and how you're gonna verify that. Okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna explain you quickly the table. It seems hard, but it's not that hard, to be honest. So the first one, we have the global objective, right? When we were when we were talking about those two, like the main problem, the global objective has to answer the main problem. Okay. I will show you an example just after. So the global objective, it has a long-term impact. When you do a project, it's rarely for 6 months. Even if it's for 6 months, you're probably gonna have some change, and you're probably gonna do things that will have an impact in the future. Because the goal is not having an impact on the short term when you do a project, but it's having like an impact on a very long term that can be used and whatever. Then there is like this specific objective. So the specific objectives are the direct effects of the project. So yeah, I'm going to show you the example just after. Then we have the indicators. So that means, what do we have to check to know if the objectives we are aiming to reach is fulfilled, or how we are with the indicators. So on a global objective, it would be the impact indicators, because that would be quantitative or qualitative. That would be up to you to follow. Before the project, we were having this amount of people trained, and they were doing this and that. And after the project, and maybe 1 year after the project, we are having this. The impact indicator is on the long term, so how you're going to verify your sources, but you can ask people, you can do survey, obviously, but you can also have external studies about it, or national data. If you work on a very specific area, probably your country or the town or the region will update their numbers about a specific problem, or people, I don't know, for example, how many people are going to schools, or how many farmers are trained in that area. So on a global objective, you will see those results more on a big scale, as we say, like macro level. And the goal is to have a change, policy change or environment change, okay? For the specific objective, we'll talk more about results indicators. And these are kind of easy to measure it, because we can have evaluation reports and survey, and we can ask our stakeholder to give more information about it, okay? So I didn't give you the example yet, so it might be a bit blurred, but what you need to say from that slide is that we have the global objective, that it's for long-term impact, okay? And more trying to change the policy, trying to change the work, the environment and stuff. And we have the specific objective that would be for 1 or 2 activity only from your project, and that will change some like little things like among your projects. Does someone have a question? Maybe I just explain you this example, and we can see how then I can ask you if you have questions. Okay. So yeah, why we would use this log frame, for example, it's to check the goal of the log frame is also to check if because the log frame, you will build it at the beginning of the project, either
I'm
at the
raising my
beginning.
hand.
Sorry, I didn't see. Who's speaking? Sorry.
Innocent.
Innocent. Hi. Do you want to ask a question on the previous slide?
Yeah, I want to ask a question about the legal framework. In the presentation, the pitching in Morocco, are we to, since you said it's mainly some, says, don't know that request for legal framework, are we to present any of our project on legal framework when you are presenting in Morocco?
In Morocco?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it depends who is gonna evaluate your project or who is aiming to give money for your project. I think the logical framework, as you can see on this slide, it could be a small table, but this small table will really show how you think about the project in a global way. Okay. So I think it could be good if you have the opportunity and you have all the information to build it, to do it. I think the logical framework is a very international tool. To be honest, us, we work in Morocco too, and I think the association that we work with, they use this.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much.
Hmm. You're welcome. Temba, I think
Yeah,
someone. Wait.
yeah, I'm online, but I have no question. I'm just coming in. I'm a bit late because of I'm having some issues with the network, so I'm just coming in.
Okay, no worries. Okay, no worries. Just you can take the just go on mute, and if you have any question, just raise your hand again, and you can ask. Welcome anyway. Okay, great. So let's see with the example that would be probably way more clear for you. So it's a new so I think so. Sorry, Booker, you're raising your hands too.
Yes, Lucas, thank you very much. I think I just pasted a question on the chat box. I don't know if I should
Okay.
repeat it here or you're able to say. Thank you.
Yeah, you can repeat it here because I cannot see the chat while I'm sharing.
Oh, okay. Oh, so apologies for that. So I was asking if whether outcome should be an integral part of a log frame. I know there are a lot of templates or formats or specific requirements from donors, but I don't know if outcome should be an integral part of the log frame. Thank you.
Okay, if your outcomes could be okay. Um, I think you can see on the example that I'm sharing right now, us what we will advise is to have the columns that are here right now. So I think the objective intervention, so like the activities, the indicators, the source of verification, and the critical assumptions. That's like the four main columns that we are advising for a log frame. But as you said, I think there are a lot of different templates. I would say if you think you can, because your outcomes, I think outcome is like a big word because in the outcome you will have your activities, you will have your indicators. I don't know if you can give me like an example of, for example, what could be your outcome and how you can implement it here.
Okay, so by outcome, I I stand to be corrected, of course, because it's a learning platform here. So I've worked with quite a lot of templates for Logframe, and in all honesty, all that I've worked with, I can see there is a column for outcome in it. So in a
Mhm.
very summarized form, outcome refers to say the immediate result that you achieve from an activity. For example, if it's a training, a capacity building training like this, one of the
Yeah,
outcome, for example, for this is that we have an enhanced capacity in
yeah,
the training topic for today, or a number of us, for example, let's say the target was 50, we can say 50 participants were trained on the so and so, or their capacity has been built on so and so. So talking of like the immediate result or of
Mm.
the activity that has been taken. Thank you. I of course stand to be corrected.
Yeah, no, thank you for correcting. I think what we miss in this example that I'm sharing right now is just the wording is different, but it's actually like quite of the same, because I think instead of specific objective, we should have put outcome or output. But it's quite the same. Like it's up to you. But okay, let's take an example with this one. I think so. My global objective for this project, the top left corner, it's to reduce the gender inequalities and improvement of food security in the tier region. So still in the same region. Um, so that's my global objective. Okay. So as we say, the global objective is has to be specific. So how I'm going to check this, how I'm going to verify this with my indicators. So my indicators will be the percentage of female-aided households with stable access to food, and will be the rate of women's participation in agriculture decision-making bodies. Okay. So how I'm going to check that with my source of verification? This I can check on the FEO, the national surveys, like all the data that I have online. All right. So as we said, like the global objective stays something that it's very in a high level macro environment. Okay. Okay, that's great. Then we have our specific objective. So from this global objective, we identify two specific objectives that are smart still. So one is 80% of trained women adopt agroecological practices by 2025. Okay. So this one, we're gonna the indicator related to it is the percentage of women using climate resilient seeds. Okay, so how are we gonna know that those women are gonna be trained? It's to check how they are using, like which tools and which technique they are using for this agroecological method. Okay, so that's, and how are we going to know this? We're going to know this by the cooperative records, and also we can ask them directly on the field. Okay. Then we have the results. So from the specific objective comes the results, or we can say like outputs, depends. So 500 women train.
I think the result is standing in for what he talked about, like an outcome.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's what we, yeah, I think that's what we talk about it. So 500 women are trained in agroecological techniques. So how are we gonna check that? How are we gonna check that they have been trained? Because we are gonna number, and we're gonna count the number of training sessions that we conducted. Okay. And how are we going to verify this with the attendance sheet and equipment inventories? So this column, source of verification, will also help to understand the donors, the people that will fund your project. They will help them to understand, okay, if I ask them how many people they have trained, for example, between the beginning of the year and now, they will be able to provide me the attendance sheet. They will be able to provide me some surveys about like what happened on the field. Okay, it's also like a way of checking. And the last one is the activities. So I'm skipping those two, but the last one is the activities. So the specific activities for this one is organizing 10 training workshop, distribute 500 agroecological kits, and create a mutual support network among women. And same here, we have the indicators, so they are verifiable. For example, for the first one, the number of participants per workshop, the percentage of kits that are still in use after 6 months. And so here, the activity is to distribute, and here we still, to count if they have been distributed, we're going to check if they're still used after 6 months. Okay. So always thinking like ahead and like in a long vision. So it's for example, it's the same for the women trained. It's good to know how many people you train, but at the same time, what did they get from the training and what did they think about it? So it's good to have also like surveys and feedbacks on this. Yeah, do you have any question for this log frame? Yes, Bukar.
Sorry, Lucas, just a point of correction I received from the chat from Karaken. Actually, what I explained was the output being the
Yeah.
immediate result, but the outcome is the long-term result, just not to mislead others. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So, yeah, just to close on this log frame, I'm going at the end of the presentation, I can send you a lot of links about this and stuff. But the log frame is to check if your activity has been directly linked to your results. Okay, and what are the proof for that? So it's also a transparency thing with your donors, the people that are giving you money. And it's also flexible. I mean, it's not because you will exactly put those indicators in the log frame that it could not be changed after. Okay, it could be changed after very easily if you discuss with the person that are donating the money. And if you have a change, so for example, imagine you instead of training 500 women, you have trained like 300 women, you have to be able to explain why. And if you have trained 600, also you can explain why, because it could be good for the project, because you had a good communication, so more people came to the training and you had the money to do it, so you did it. Okay, so it's not very reachable. Like you have to think about this tool as something flexible, but also something that is like a transparency matter with the people that are going to give you the money. Okay, I'm gonna go quick on those ones, but the next slides are about the indicators. So there are few indicators. We hear a lot about indicators when we manage like those kind of project, but basically the indicators are quantified measures used to assess the progress of a project, activity, or program in relation to its stated objectives. So always we say that we were going to do that at the beginning, and how right now, thanks to our indicators, we can see that we have done this so far, or we have done that, etc., etc. Okay. They show whether what has been planned is being achieved on time and with the with the right results. Okay. I gave you just an example down there in the proposal. The proposal was saying to train 50 women in TIS in agroecology in June 2024. Okay, so that's what you said in the project. The answer to that you got from the indicator is 21st of June 2024, 20 women had been trained. Okay. Now, what do you get from that? You get the fact that you train more women than usual, that you are supposed to do, which is good. But at the same time, you don't need to explain yourself, but it's nice to know for them why you train more people, and you can just say that as I said, like you had a good communication, you had money that were incoming, etc. So yeah, that's the indicator. So what you have to also to keep from that slide is that results and activity indicators will be more on a short-term level, as as we saw with the. I'm sorry, as we saw with this, and the impact indicators will be more on the long term. Okay, so we talk more about impacts when the project is over and when we check after, etc. And we talk more about activity indicators and results indicators when it's running and it's really about the activities. Well, also like the indicators could be followed through different tools. I know that we have some dashboards. So for example, Jira, Monday, Planner, whatever, like it's good to do project management, all of those tools. I can send you also a list at the end. Yeah, and while it's important to understand also, as I said, is to stay flexible because it's good to keep those indicators running and updating not every day, but like at least every week or every month, because probably you're gonna have to fill some reports, update reports, could be narrative reports, financial reports. So think about the indicators and think about how you're gonna measure them before the project or during the project. It's a must to not have to catch and have trying to have all the information at the end of the project, because you may like lose it or some information they won't be available. For example, if you train like 20 people on a specific subject, I would advise you to launch request on like a survey on how was the training and directly get the answer from them, because this way they will remember very quickly because they were here. And also you can gather the feedback just straight after the training course, while if you wait for the end of the month of the project to get this feedback, you won't get the same feedback, you won't be as qualitative as it is just after, because it's not fresh anymore, etc. Okay, so now we are entering in the last part, theory of change. Do you have question on indicators? No. Wait, I'm gonna check the chat. Mm, 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 mm. No, no question. Okay, great. So let's continue. Okay. The last part is theory of change. So I'm gonna go also quickly on this. The most understand is that the most important is that you understand the log frame, and this theory of change, I would say, comes in a different way and comes in a complementary way. I would say it's not a very, very different tools from the log frame, but it adds something to your proposal. It shows that you are thinking about also like how you can change, like, okay, you'll see, I'm gonna show you. So first off, theory of change, as we say also like TOC, is a tool that illustrates how project action can be leads to tangible results and sustainable change step by step. So the goal here is it's to identify what needs to happen for the project to success, and also what will be the how to say like the change that you want to have with your project. We're not talking about only like, okay, I'm going to train 200 people. Yes, you're going to train 200 people, but what is the change, you know? So that's different from the results, and that's different that maybe from the indicators that you can have in your log frame. The theory of change will be what will be the most impact on the long term that you can have that will change maybe the behavior of the people from your community, that can change an entire village, an entire system, an entire work. Okay, so you will see it will be more clear. So on the objectives, so first one, there are three objectives. The first one is to visualize the results chain. Okay, well, that's what you do in a log frame. So that's kind of similar. The two other ones are adding to this. The first one is to anticipate the risk, because if you recon, when we were here, we didn't talk about the risk of the project. Okay, we talk about like how we can verify the indicators, how we can measure, but we didn't talk about the risk. We didn't talk about the risk, and we didn't talk about the stakeholders. So who are we going to include inside our project? Okay, but who are we going to include inside our project means like in an intervention logic. So that will make us build a project, that will make it smarter, that will make it have more impact. Okay. So I would say that's the two new things from the theory of change that adds you to the logical frame. Anticipate the risks and align stakeholders on your intervention logic. Okay, so I'm gonna show you real quick. That's the explanation. The theory of change we'll start from column one. Okay, will help you clarifying the intervention logic. With the theory of change, what we want to is to avoid like kind of intuitive project with no clear link between activities and impacts. With development project, we sometimes see that people, they have good project, they have very good stuff, but it's not meant like the activities and the impacts are not matching. Okay, when you build a project, you have to think about what impact do I want to have, and how I'm gonna go from my activities that are going to impact my impacts. Okay, so the answer to the question that you should ask is, how will our actions really change the situation? Okay, we want to change the situation. We want to have a long-term impact once again. The second one, as I said, is to involve the stakeholders. So you can co-create your project with the beneficiary, with the local partners, to validate like kind of the logic of the project. And also like to avoid bias, meaning like solutions that are not tailored to the realities on the ground. Because if you do a small project on a very specific need and it's in your town, like, you know, all the people, I think it's gonna be a very changing project. But sometimes we tend to think that we can do a project in another town, in another city, we see an opportunity. But if you don't have the information from the people that lives there and are working there like day to day, you're not gonna have the same results. Okay. So that's the risk. That's the risk. So involve your stakeholder is the first. It's the second great step. The third one, as I said, is to anticipate the risk. So what are the critical assumptions? What is the big risk? You can also ask yourself, what must be true for the project to succeed? Okay, that means if I don't have this, the project is not going to succeed. Okay. Obviously, if I don't have money, the project is not going to succeed. That's if I need money for my project. But okay, if I don't have a specialist of this agriculture in Senegal, how my project is gonna work? Is not gonna work. Okay, so try to go further and try to ask yourself, like, to anticipate all of these risks. Okay, then measuring impacts, not just activities. As I said, we want to know the impact on the long term of this theory of change. So to measure the impact and not only the activities, you have to go beyond the report. For example, I will tell you very like a simple example. instead of saying I have done 10 training course, if someone asks you about how did your project like move the city, like change something, change the system, and you just say, oh well, I've trained 100 people on this. No, you said like thanks to this training, thanks to the 100 people that I train, this change or that many changes have taken place, or this policy change, or now we work with the government, or la, la. Okay, try also when you show your project results to think about this. The before the last one, it's also very easy, but it's to convince the donors. So I'll say if you have a very good log frame plus a theory of change, it will be reassurance. Will show also that you have done a lot of research, that you've really built this project, to manage to do it. I advise you to align yourself with the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, because I think most of the donors now are demanding this approach. So, I think I don't have to explain you what are the SDG again, but there are goals, sustainable goals from the UN that are supposed in 2030 and more lately 2050 to have to change the way we live in our world, development-wise, I would say, in a big approach. So I would say my advice for the SDG, if a donor is asking you which SDG are you feeling, like what is your impact with that SDG, I would advise you to give 1 or 2 SDG maximum. If you're doing agriculture in that very, how do you say, not non-advanced part in a country, whatever, and you're feeding a lot of people through your training and through the money that you input in those training and in those field. Okay, maybe if it was some people that didn't have any food, you are going to feel the SDG number 1, which is zero hunger. But that would be your main one. Maybe you have a second one because you use like very ecological technique. Okay, but don't go over 2. That's my advice, because then it's too much for me. And we also work as donor. And for me, when I receive some project proposal and there are people that are just put like 10 SDGs, like which SDGs are you feeling? And you just feel like 10 of them. It's not very professional. Like it's not showing that you've thought about which one exactly you're feeling and how come it's the best that you could feel, etc. Okay. Yeah, and then of course this theory of change is to capitalize and improve. So with the theory of change, you will realize if it's good, what you have done, it's good, the successes, the loss, because at the end you will evaluate again this theory of change and you can use it for the next projects. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat. Do you have any question? I have this very quick example and it's like the last slide. Okay, I see some questions. Okay, so I see how type of indicators can we use to measure the behavior attitude. Okay, that's a very good question. You can see on the chat. So how type of indicators can we use to measure the behavior attitudinal change? Okay, I think what we were using for the people behavior, I think the most easy things to do is to just measure have a survey with the beneficiaries. For example, if it's trainers, farmers, like have a survey at the beginning, ask a very specific question on how they feel right now, what are their skills. I don't know if it's try to measure what's their state of mind and what are their skills at the moment that you start the project, and then start to have it at the end of the project to see, of course, if you have this change of behavior, this change of attitude. And you can even do it 1 year after the project. That would be my advice. If you can do that, it's obviously amazing. Otherwise, I had another idea, but I just lost it. I'm sorry, just 1 minute. It's gonna come back. Yeah, also on the change, you can, for example, if you're training people to be more responsible about the environment on a town or a village or whatever, um, you can. It's really depending how you're gonna ask the question, but you can ask how they were doing before and how they do now. Having this change of like behaviors in the daily basis. So I would say survey is one of the best way to get it. So either you send it or you can do face-to-face interview with them to see how it does change. And then you can do a impact report that can really highlight this. I don't know if this is a answer your question. We can send you more things. Okay, thumbs up, great. Okay, so yeah, the next slide is this one, is the example. So the project is still to improve access to drinking water in Niger by providing solar powered boreholes, which are like kind of pump, like pipe filter or motorized pump to get water from the ground and filter it, and people are be able to drink it after that. So our main problem here is we have no access to drinking water in the village of Bankilare. So we divided some activities that we want to do. It's a very simple project because it has three activities. So I'm gonna tell you now about those activities. The first one is to build a borehole. Okay, so we're gonna ask money to have this borehole thing installed in the village, and some people that are just gonna install it and will pay for it. Okay, but we have to train the community so about this borehole, first we need to ask our stakeholders. As we say in the theory of change, we ask for the stakeholders. So we can gather the chief of the village, the town hall, like all the people that could be impacted, also most members of some families, or like we can create a council and ask them where it's good to install this borehole. We can also ask like an expert, because some how to say, like some location could be good for this one, could be not good. So ask as many people as you can. And we have to train the community in maintenance of this, because when the company is going to install it, and then we have to have someone that can assure the maintenance part of this. It's great. We asked the stakeholders. Now we have to install it 500 meters away from the town, which is way better, because usually the distance for water was 2 kilometers. So it's like 4 times less. And also another activity that we do is to have an activity on how we can use this borehole, or the family can use this borehole, and just also use the water to very clean their hands, wash their hands every time they do something. Like we have this training about using soap and stuff. So the second result is 60% of families are use soap. Why we train on this? Because they have a lot of hydric disease like diarrhea, cholera, regarding to not clean water. So as soon as we are gonna bring drinkable water and clean water, how can we use it? How can we not waste it? Okay, that will be part of the two big main activities. So I would say build the borehole, train the community in maintenance, and train them on how to use it and how to not waste it and how to use the soap and everything. And that will have an impact on that. Fewer illness, because people they will be more able to have access to clean water and new soap, etc. And more girls at school because specifically like the women are attached to this task of like getting the water. So it's something that women are supposed to do. So also little girls because they don't have enough hands and they need help. So by that we aim that more girls will attend to school because they will not get the water from too far, and so the adult women can be responsible of that task. And then, as I said, we on the theory of change, we try to think about the risk. So our hypothesis on risk is that the main risk is that the borehole breaks, right? That's the main risk. But if we think about that risk, we already think about solutions. Like we have to think about solutions. So we identified two solutions on this one. The town hall will help repair the borehole if necessary. So imagine it breaks, they are just going to cover the cost and they're going to make it fix. Or the community will raise funds for maintenance. So that means we can ask family to give, I would say like 100 a month per family, or depends like what's the actual currency. But okay, we identified the risk and we are going and we found some solution in case that happens. Do you have any question on that example? No, okay. Or more question about the in general, I would say, because that's I'll just have a little quiz after, but if you have any question is just right now before we do the quiz, or you can ask obviously after the quiz. Okay, no question for now, so we can go with the quiz. So we're gonna do a little quiz. You can ask, you can write your answer in the chat. There are three answers available every time, A, B, or C. So or 1, 2, 3, I don't remember. A, B, or C, and just answer A, B, C in the chat. Okay. It's just going to be 5 questions. Okay, we'll see if we have a winner if someone answered it all correctly. So question 1 is, what tool can be used to directly link a project activities to its impacts? So it's theory of change, of changement, forecast budget, or SWOT analysis. So A, B, or C. Okay, we have B, we have A. Answer, you can answer in the chat. It's okay if it's wrong. A, B, A, B. A, B, B, B. Okay, most answer are B, I think, which was the right answer. So theory of change. The theory of change is the only tool that can, as I said, like see the complete scheme of everything. So the activities, the results, and the impact. And SWOT analysis was also like a good answer, but it's only an analysis of the context. So you don't go as deep as the activities and the impacts. It's kind of the phase before. Okay. So great. Congrats to the one that said B. Question 2 is, what step is essential before building a theory of change? Answer A is write a report. Answer B is contact your donors. C, realize a local diagnosis. This one is easy. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, C. Okay, great. Yeah, so the answer was realize a local diagnosis. Because without diagnosis, the theory of change will held on hypotheses that are non-verified. So yeah, that was the right answer. Question 3. Which of these formulation complies with the SMART method? So which one of those three objectives is following like the SMART method? So answer A, improve education. Answer B, increase primary school completion rates by 20% by 2025. Or answer C, realize some training. Yeah, B. Great. Yeah, this one was easy too, but yeah, just remember that specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bounded, it's the key for those activities. So this one is respecting all of this. Question 4 is before the last one. Which element is not part of the logical framework? Monitoring indicators, means of verification, or stakeholder analysis? B. Okay, yeah, that's the right one, because the stakeholder analysis can be done before, because like obviously you're gonna see like with who you're gonna work, like who you're gonna work with, etc. You have the logical framework focus on the objective, the results, the indicators, and the source, proof of verification, proof of means of verification. Okay, and last question. In a vocational training project for early school leavers, which assumption is critical to the success of the project? So that means if this happens, the project might not like if the if this doesn't happen, the project could be in a very critical aspect. Mhm. Okay, that's interesting. We have C, A, C. Okay, the right answer was A, because as we say in this is a vocational training project, so that means the early school leavers will have to be probably trained and hired after that. So the project will be in a very critical situation if the local companies are not hiring the young people trained, okay? Because if the teaching materials is not delivered on time, it's not critical because we can just postpone. And if the training was with AC, obviously was a dumb answer. So yeah, I hope that's clear for everyone. Yeah, so I think we reached the end. I'll send you the presentation. I don't know who will send you, probably not me, but I will share it to Y.E.S Africa team. for further reading, you have different things here about the logical framework, the theory of change, etc. Two of them are in English, one is in French. So for the French speaker, you can have this one also. And I'll just sum up very quickly. This is the last slide, what we just say. So the key takeaways that you're gonna have is now you know what a log, like a complete log frame is, the problem tree and the theory of change, with always like keeping in mind that the smart objectives and the indicators are like your main focus. It's important to structure an impactful project, so that means your activities will have results, will have impact. It's important also to don't confuse activities with objective and to anticipate the risk, to avoid critical assumptions and to be able to run your project correctly. Probably you will have a mock available soon on this. I'm not sure about it, but probably yes. And I also listed two next presentation modules that are gonna take place next week. So in the 6th of May, you will have 5 keys to successful call for project. And on May 13, you will have normative framework and international standards. Okay. And I repeat, there is one on finance that I will animate in French, and that my colleague Sabine will animate in English. So if you're interested, I think that's next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, so the 7 also finance if you're interested on building a budget, etc. So I will leave you on this. Does anyone have a question? Kumbeke, I will how do you say, like, transfer your feedback on to the Y.E.S Africa team, because I'm not managing that, but I can definitely send them this feedback. I hope you guys appreciate it. I will send the presentation anytime soon. And I wish you good luck for your project and everything. I'll just share the LinkedIn from our organization if you wanna. I will put this in the presentation, but everything is in there. So have a good day and thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Lucas.
you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.